This is Around the Globe with Dr. G. Now, talking about the court system as a whole, Apostle Paul in the book of Corinthians has something to say in regards to Christians and the way we ought to deal with each other concerning the court system. And this is from First Corinthians chapter 6. I'm sure that you're familiar with this verse, but just in case for our audience, I want to go ahead and read what Paul said in First Corinthians chapter 6. I'll start with verse 1. He says, Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unrighteous and not before the saints? Do you not know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world will be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Do you not know that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then you have judgments concerning things pertaining to this life, do you appoint those who are least esteemed by the church to judge? I say this to your shame. Is it so that there's not a wise man amongst you, not even one, who will be able to judge between his brethren? And this is the clincher. But brother goes to law against brother, and that before unbelievers? So, as a prosecutor,
Yes.
what are your thoughts in regards to those words?
Well, I think of Jesus saying, when he was asked about paying taxes, and he said, give to Caesar what is Caesar's.
Okay.
There is a government system.
Okay.
The government system, I mean, even the word says that you should be subject to the authorities of the world.
Yes.
And so the legal system is there for a purpose. It's there for a purpose. You can't necessarily have Christian judges
Okay.
in all the courts. You may have some. Some may be, some may be believers, others not. They also have a duty to be fair.
I see.
But the question that you ask in relation to brother taking a brother to court, sometimes that is the only way that you can resolve certain things. And sometimes you can do it in love.
Okay.
So, for instance, and I think of an extreme situation here. Well, it's not so extreme because it does happen. You have sexual abuse
I see.
in the family, even outside the family, that you become aware of. What do? You don't, pat the person on the back and say, no, we're not going to report this. I'm just going to talk to you. Maybe you need counseling. And that is a recipe for that person feeling that, well, I can go on to the next person and abuse, and the next person and abuse, or even continue to abuse the same person. So in a situation like that, you don't say, no, the word of God says,
Brother should not
brother
go
shouldn't
against
go
brother
to court
to court.
against brother.
Yeah.
I think this is the very kind of brother that you should take to court. The law is there for a purpose, and God has allowed its establishment. And for you who have taken somebody else to court and have that person prosecuted, you're saying, Lord, in your hands. And chances are that you've committed the matter into the hands of God, and the Lord has given you the peace of mind to take that person to court. Now, I rather suspect that in the kind of situation that Paul is talking about here is in relation to civil matters.
Okay.
You owe me some money
I see. I see.
and you haven't paid me. I've asked you several times and
Yeah.
you haven't paid up. Now, in situations like that, you may go to the elders in the church
Okay.
and raise the matter and try and bring about a resolution.
Okay.
And sometimes what may come out of it is, well, I owe you this money and I'm not paying you. I can't afford it. End of. And it may be that you just accept that. And you say to yourself, well, next time I won't be lending him any money.
Yeah.
And take a step of caution. But there are certain times when you just have to take the matter to court. You can't ask, well, you could, but then I suppose the kind of resolution that you would get from the court, as opposed to your Christian brothers,
Yes.
would be so different. Sometimes some people need to be taught a lesson.
Yes.
It's sometimes called a short, sharp shock. A short time in prison to get you to understand what you have done. And sometimes you actually get people who register for all sorts of counseling and various things to assist you for when you go back into society.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it is necessary sometimes for brother to take brother to court.
You know what? I really, really love the way that you've explained that. For me, for quite some time, that particular verse challenged me. And the way that you've explained that actually makes sense. There are certain matters that one ought to report to the court system, like the matter that you brought up, example of sexual abuse. Many times, just talking to the person is not enough, it's not sufficient. And as you said, if things are not dealt with the right way, that person may continue
Absolutely.
that abuse from one person to the next person.
Yes.
And so he needs a shock.
Yes.
He
Yes.
needs a shock
Yes.
to his system. And in the other example that you gave, perhaps where there is a financial matter between brothers, certainly and hopefully that can be resolved through, as you said, maybe elders in the church. Maybe other family members may come in and help to resolve such matters, and we shouldn't drag everyone to church, to court.
Yes, drag them to church, but not to court.
Drag them to church. Don't drag them to court. But yeah. So thank you so much for explaining that. That's actually very, very good. I'm sure that viewers will find that very helpful as well.